Back before you today at the third Artificial Intelligence Summit. We're living through one of the most transformative eras in the history of education. My research titled Grammarly, a Modern Ally in Language Teaching addresses a topic that sits at the very heart of the current academic debate. Often when we discuss artificial intelligence in the classroom, the conversation is dominated by a sense of apprehension. We hear about the risks to academic integrity, the fear of plagiarism, and the potential erosion of critical thinking. However, my objective today is to fundamentally pivot this perspective. I want to invite you to look at AI not as a threat that replaces the student, but as a sophisticated pedagogical ally that empowers the learner. So, today we'll explore how we can bridge the gap from the underlying technical engine of NLP to concrete transformative classroom practice. To ensure we make the most of this journey today, I'm going to establish the roadmap. Our journey is structured to move from the macro-theoretical level to the micro-practical application. We'll begin with a systematic review of current research to understand the state of AI in language instruction, with a model of the AI feedback iceberg. Next, we'll dive into the theoretical framework where I'll deconstruct the 5 C's of effective writing through the lens of NLP. I'll then present 2 original mandated frameworks that are the core of my research, the AI-Assisted Diagnostic Assessment workflow for educators, and the 5-step writing protocol for students. And then we'll conclude with a trialogue and conceptual synthesis of the new relationship between the teacher, the student, and the AI. We must first acknowledge the reality of our classrooms today. In this digital era, the landscape of human communication has undergone a systematic and radical transformation. The volume of written text generated by our students has exploded. They write more than any generation in history. However, this volume brings a unique set of challenges for us, the educators. We're no longer merely teaching students to avoid basic grammatical errors. We're tasked with a far more complex objective of enabling them to write clearly, persuasively, and with an acute awareness of audience register and tone. For us, the teachers, this often translates into an overwhelming burden of mechanical correction. We spend countless hours circling commas, fixing spelling, pointing out basic syntax errors. This repetitive labor effectively siphons our energy away from the substantive teaching of rhetorical strategies, argumentative logic, and the development of a student's unique authorial voice. My central premise today is that tools like Grammarly are not a threat to our pedagogical authority. They're powerful, supplementary partners. So, by delegating the mechanical detection to automated systems, we define a new elevated role for ourselves, one where we are coaches of thought rather than just mechanics of language. So let's begin and look at the research that supports this transition. To understand where we currently stand, I conducted a systematic review of 15 key studies published between 2018 and 2025. What emerges is a clear picture that I call the AI feedback iceberg. I want you to visualize the iceberg because it perfectly represents the hidden complexities of AI in education. Above the surface, we see the immediate visible successes. Recent research consistently finds that Grammarly is exceptionally effective at reducing surface-level errors, the technical mechanics of grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Interestingly, the data suggests that AI-driven feedback often outperforms traditional human feedback in terms of speed and precision for these technical corrections. This provides an immediate reinforcement of accuracy. It has a significant psychological benefit. It boosts students' confidence as they see their work polished in real time, removing the initial barrier of error that often paralyzes a young writer. However, as we look below the waterline, the limitations become clear and demanding. This is the most critical part of our understanding. While the AI is a master of mechanics, it struggles with deep writing issues. It cannot truly understand logical flow, complex semantic coherence, or the subtle nuances of content organization. Current research warns us that while AI feedback improves general proficiency scores, it doesn't necessarily enhance divergent thinking. In fact, if used without a proper pedagogical framework, it can act as a corrective mechanism that pulls every student toward the same standard style, so potentially stifling their unique creative voice. Finally, at the base of the iceberg, we find the structural risks, most notably the digital divide. We must be acutely aware that if access to premium AI features remains unequal, technology may inevitably bring educational inequalities. As educators, we must avoid this. So, this leads us to the most critical question. How do we integrate this into the classroom effectively? The research suggests that the pedagogical outcome is not determined by the software itself, but by the scaffolding, actually, provided by the teacher. I've mapped here in this scaffolding matrix. On the left side, we see the risk zone. AI is used as a crutch. This happens when tools are introduced with minimal guidance or used in isolation as an automated panacea for writing deficiencies. So there, the students tend to develop AI dependency. They passively accept every suggestion the software makes without critical valuation. In these cases, the AI doesn't facilitate learning. It constrains original thought and limits the student's creative agency. It becomes a creative crutch rather than a learning partner. On the right side, however, we see the opportunity AI used as a partner. This requires what I call high scaffolding. This means we explicitly teach students how to prompt the AI, how to cross-examine its suggestions, and how to customize the tool for their specific rhetorical goals. We move from isolated use to shared agency, where the student uses the AI as a consultant rather than a commander. The consensus is clear. Success depends on AI literacy. The tool must complement rather than replace human instruction, and our goal is a scaffolded partnership where the student remains the master of their own creative voice and critical perspective. The teacher's role is to build the framework within which the AI operates. To use this partner effectively, we must first understand its engine, NLP. So simply put, NLP is the field of AI that allows computers to read, understand, and derive meaning from the messy and nuanced reality of human language. But Grammarly uses sophisticated NLP algorithms that go far beyond the basic spell check we're used to in standard word processors. It doesn't just check for misspelled words, it checks for contextual errors, instances where a word is spelled incorrectly but used inappropriately within a specific syntactic or semantic environment. More importantly, it assesses writing across 5 critical dimensions of communicative efficacy, which I have categorized as the 5 C's. We have coherence, correctness, clarity, conciseness, and consistency. So grammar moves beyond simple proofreading to perform a multi-dimensional analysis of how a human reader perceives a text. It transforms the theory of complex language analysis into immediate situational feedback. To move forward, what we call coherence, it concerns the logical macrostructure and the propositional relationships within a text, while traditional software treats sentences as discrete, isolated units. NLP facilitates the identification of semantic gaps between them. So if we look at the student's example on the screen, the original text lists 3 facts that seem disconnected: the investment, the cancelled training, and the improved productivity. A simple spell check would find no errors here. However, the NLP engine detects a lack of transition, so it suggests establishing a clear cause and effect relationship using subordinate conjunctions like although or due to. This intervention transforms a fragmented list of facts into a logically integrated narrative. The second dimension, correctness, represents the tool's core functionality, but it is refined through advanced contextual parsing. The system transcends basic lexicon-based checking by employing deep syntactic analysis. As you can see in the example regarding the principal investigator, the engine distinguishes between homophones based on their syntactic role, identifying a possessive pronoun where the expletive there is syntactically required, and so on. Clarity It's the resolution of semantic transparency. It is very essential because unclear writing leads to misunderstandings and a loss of interest from the audience. NLP is particularly adept at identifying structural parsing errors, such as the dangling modifier. For example, here, after waiting in the cramped office for 3 hours, the doctor finally called the patient. Grammatically, the initial structure illogically attributes the act of waiting to the doctor, but grammarly structural analysis recognizes this misplaced modifier and suggests a rewrite that reestablishes the correct agent-action relationship. The fourth C is conciseness, which involves the optimization of information density and rhetorical efficiency. In academic and professional discourse, conciseness is paramount. I will not further look at the example because due to the lack of time. Consistency, it relates to stylistic register and tone. Writing is always an act of social and professional positioning. So Grammarly utilizes sentiment analysis and register detection to monitor what we call prosodic uniformity. In this instance, the system detects a jarring shift from a formal professional register to a highly informal one, and it corrects this instance. So this brings us to the synthesis of the framework, which you can see in the diagram here. This is the heart of my theoretical approach. What you see here is not merely a collection of software features, but a pedagogical augment, a system where technology and human converge to enhance communicative efficacy. On the perimeter, we have the integrated multidimensional analysis, a standard word processor. These 5 dimensions we discussed before are often addressed in silos, if at all. However, through this lens of NLP, they're analyzed in real-time synthesis. So we're moving beyond binary surface-level correction towards a holistic refinement of the text's propositional strength. The true value of this tool, however, is the movement from correction to metacognition. When the AI flags a dangling modifier or a tonal inconsistency, it isn't just fixing a mistake, it's forcing the student into a state of active engagement. So it requires strategic linguistic decision-making. The student must pause and ask, why did the AI flag this? Does this change my intended meaning? This process internalizes the editor within the student, fostering a deeper awareness of agent-action relationships and prosodic uniformity. Finally, the center core represents actionable linguistic theory. As we know, linguistic theory is often too abstract for a student to apply in the pressurized moment of creation. So this tool provides a theoretical scaffolding. Now, I will not examine the practical classroom application and case studies, which you can actually find in the article as well. I will go on to talk about a little bit about section 4 here. Here we address the administrative bottleneck in language education. Traditionally, educators are weighed down by mechanical, low-order corrections. So they have a little time for high-level feedback on a student's ideas and argumentative logic. To solve this, I propose the model of AI-Assisted Diagnostic Assessment, where tools function complementarily. While Grammarly acts as a micro-level editing assistant for the student during drafting, generic LLMs serve as macro-level analytical engines for the educator. By utilizing them in tandem, we can automate the analysis of uncorrected text, shifting our focus from being correction machines to becoming mentors of critical thought. Let's deconstruct the 5-step diagnostic workflow. In this chart, yellow text signifies proactive teacher intervention, while white text indicates automated AI processes. In steps 1 and 2, which are both yellow, the teacher initiates the process by collecting a raw draft to establish a baseline, and then aligns the AI with specific rubrics such as EELS or CEFR to ensure a calibrated analysis. In steps 3 and 4, which are white colored, the AI then identifies structural trends like argumentative inconsistencies rather than simple typos. It generates a diagnostic snapshot and drafts actionable feedback for the teacher to refine. The final step, 5, in this final critical stage, the educator performs an internalization check. By comparing the raw and corrected texts, we determine if the student's revisions were merely mechanical or truly substantive and thoughtful. Ultimately, this workflow allows the educator to move from being a correction machine to becoming an intellectual coach, focusing on the student's substantive growth. To ensure Grammarly remains a pedagogical partner and not an automated fixed button, I've developed this mandated 5-step workflow for students as well. This protocol is designed to isolate cognitive loads, allowing the students to focus on one dimension of writing at a time. Step 1 is idea generation and drafting. Here the goal is exclusively content and structure. Students write their complete first draft, focusing only on arguments and evidence, by explicitly telling them not to worry about grammar or spelling at this stage. We mitigate cognitive overload, allowing the brain to focus on the higher order task of building a persuasive argument. Step 2 is the metacognitive review. This is the most human part of the process, and it occurs before any AI is engaged. Students must read the draft out loud. This activates their internal editor and develops prosodic awareness, recognizing awkward phrasing or logical leaps through human intuition before the software intervenes. Steps 3 and 4 involve critical engagement with Grammarly. In step 3, we focus on syntactic precision, correctness, and clarity. In step 4, we shift to stylistic refinement, engagement, and tone. At every click, the student must ask, does this suggestion truly improve my intended meaning or not? Finally, step 5 is quality assurance. The student takes final ownership of the polished work, ensuring citations and formatting are correct. So this protocol fundamentally reframes the technology. Grammarly is no longer a magic button at the end. It's a structured scaffold in a comprehensive pedagogical journey that keeps human agency at the center. What we've explored today is the emergence of a new pedagogical relationship, the trialogue, as I call it. This model moves away from the traditional binary relationship between teacher and student, introducing AI as a third consultative entity. By outsourcing the mechanical lower order work of error spotting to Grammarly, the educator is liberated to focus on the skills that truly require human expertise: critical thinking, argumentation strategy, organizational logic, the recognition of a student's unique voice. Now, we move from being mechanics of language to being coaches and mentors in critical thought. So the conclusion, I think, is clear. We synthesize the findings of this presentation in 3 core pillars for the future of our practice. First, we have to establish a theoretical bridge. Then, secondly, we have defined a significant structural shift by using AI. Third, our path forward is clear. We must prioritize AI literacy. And the take-home message: we must move from error correction to scaffolded partnership. I think that is the most important thing we must keep from the speech today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions. Dr. Spivakis.